Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the EDF Hyperion, watching the crystalline spires of the Aetherian capital city shimmer in the light of 3 setting suns. After 15 years of service in Earth's defense fleet, she thought she'd seen everything the galaxy had to offer. She was wrong. The Aetherians had contacted Earth just 6 months ago, emerging from their isolated sector of space with technology that made humanity's greatest achievements look primitive by comparison. Their ships didn't just traverse space. They bent it, wrapped it, danced through it like silk in the wind. Their cities weren't built. They were grown, living structures of crystal and light that responded to their inhabitants' needs. And now humanity's fate rested on Sarah's shoulders. "Commander," Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled through her comm. "The Aetherian Honor Guard is ready to receive us. Princess Tulera awaits in the crystal throne room." Sarah straightened her dress uniform, checking her reflection in the viewport's glass. Dark eyes stared back at her, framed by short black hair streaked with premature gray, a testament to too many close calls in too many battles. At 42, she was young for her rank, but war had a way of accelerating promotions. "Acknowledged," she replied, turning away from the view. "Tell the diplomatic team to assemble in the shuttle bay." The Hyperion shuttle descended through layers of shimmering atmospheric shields, each one rippling like water as they passed through. Sarah studied the briefing data one final time on her neural display. The Aetherian Empire spanned 3,000 star systems, yet they'd never encountered another spacefaring species until now. Their isolation was self-imposed, driven by ancient prophecies that spoke of the great corruption waiting in the void between stars. What had changed? Why reach up now? The shuttle touched down in a landing bay that looked more like a cathedral than a spaceport. Crystalline archways soared overhead, their surfaces alive with shifting patterns of light that seemed to follow their movements. An honor guard of Aetherian warriors waited in perfect formation, their ceremonial armor catching and reflecting the ambient light in mesmerizing ways. Sarah led her team down the shuttle's ramp, conscious of every step. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth standard, making her movements feel unnaturally buoyant. The air carried a sweet metallic tang that her filters hadn't quite screened out. An Aetherian official stepped forward, his skin shifting through shades of blue and gold. An emotional display Sarah's briefings hadn't prepared her to interpret. "Commander Chen," he said, his universal translator rendering his harmonic speech into crisp English. "I am First Speaker Koval. Welcome to Aetheria Prime." Sarah bowed precisely to the depth specified in her cultural briefing. "The Earth Defense Fleet is honored by your welcome, First Speaker. We come in peace and friendship." "Peace and friendship," Koval echoed, his skin rippling with new patterns. "Follow me, please. Her radiance awaits." They proceeded through corridors that seemed to sing with every footstep, the crystal walls resonating with their passage. Sarah's tactical training couldn't help but note defensive positions, shield generators disguised as decorative elements, and at least 3 different types of scanning technology hidden in the architectural features. The Aetherians might look ethereal, but they were far from defenseless. The crystal throne room lived up to its name. The vast chamber opened before them, its ceiling lost in heights that vanished into light. The walls were faceted like the interior of a geode, each surface catching and multiplying the radiance that seemed to emanate from the throne itself. And there, seated upon a chair that appeared to be made of pure light, was Princess Tulera. Sarah's first thought was that the briefing images hadn't done her justice. The Aetherian princess was tall and willowy like all her kind, but where most Aetherians had skin that shifted through blues and greens, Tulera's epidermis rippled with colors Sarah had no names for. Her eyes were pools of living gold, and the crown she wore seemed to be made of captured starlight. "Commander Sarah Chen," Tulera's voice carried through the chamber like music. "Step forward." Sarah approached the throne, her boots silent on the crystal floor. She stopped at the prescribed distance and bowed deeply. "Your Radiance, Earth sends its greetings and hopes for peaceful cooperation between our peoples. "Rise, Commander." There was something in Tellura's voice. Tension. Uncertainty. "We have much to discuss, and I fear time grows short." Before Sarah could respond, alarms began to sound throughout the palace. The crystal walls flashed with warning patterns, and the honor guard snapped to attention. "Your Radiance." A warrior burst into the chamber, his skin nearly white with what Sarah's training suggested was fear. "We've detected multiple unauthorized quantum transitions. Ships are appearing throughout the system." Tellura rose from her throne, her color patterns shifting rapidly. "How many?" "Hundreds. Your Radiance. Their configurations match no known designs, and they're not responding to hails." Sarah's tactical training kicked in. "Your Radiance, the Hyperion sensors might be able to help identify." She was cut off by a sound like thunder. The crystal walls vibrated with such intensity that Sarah feared they might shatter. Through the chamber's towering windows, she could see new stars appearing in the darkening sky, the drive signatures of ships dropping out of quantum space. Tellura's golden eyes met Sarah's. "It seems, Commander Chen, that our peoples will have to learn to trust each other very quickly indeed." Sarah nodded grimly. "The Earth Defense Fleet stands ready to assist. Your Radiance. Whatever's coming, we'll face it together." The princess's color patterns stabilized into something Sarah hadn't seen before. A deep, resolute purple shot through with silver. "Together, then." "And Commander? Call me Tellura. I suspect we're about to become either very close allies or very dead." As if to punctuate her words, the first explosions began to bloom in the skies above the city. The great corruption that Aetherian prophecies had warned of wasn't waiting in the void between stars after all. It had found them. The Crystal Palace's war room was a cathedral of light and data, holographic displays floating like constellations around the central planning table. Sarah Chen watched as Tellura's hands danced through the projection, manipulating battle plans with practiced grace. It had been 6 hours since the unknown fleet's arrival, and the situation was deteriorating rapidly. "Their attack pattern makes no tactical sense," Sarah said, studying the movement of enemy ships. "They're sacrificing strategic positions, ignoring defensive weaknesses." She frowned. "It's almost like they're searching for something." Tellura's skin rippled with bands of deep crimson, a sign of intense concentration, Sarah had learned. "The palace archives," she said finally. "They must be after the archives. What's in them that's worth this kind of assault?" The princess hesitated, her color shifting to a troubled violet. "The truth about why we isolated ourselves, about what we found out there in the dark between stars." She met Sarah's eyes. "About what we were running from." Before Sarah could press further, the tactical display erupted with new alerts. Enemy dropships were penetrating the city's outer shields, using some kind of phase technology that let them slip through the crystalline barriers like ghosts through walls. "Commander Chen," Tellura's voice carried the weight of centuries of royal authority. "I require your expertise. My people are unaccustomed to ground combat. We relied too long on our technological superiority, on our shields and automated defenses." Sarah nodded grimly. "Earth learned the hard way that technology alone isn't enough. Sometimes you need boots on the ground and the will to fight." She activated her neural link to the Hyperion. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, deploy the Marines. Full combat loadout. We're going to teach these attackers why you don't underestimate humans in a fight." The next hours were a blur of combat and coordination. Sarah found herself working in seamless partnership with Tellura, the princess's mastery of Aetherian technology, complementing Sarah's tactical experience. They transformed the palace's crystalline architecture into a maze of deadly traps and ambush points, using the very beauty of Aetherian design as a weapon. But it was the cultural differences that proved most challenging. The Aetherian warriors, for all their advanced technology, were hesitant to embrace the controlled chaos of human combat doctrine. They wanted perfect formations, precise movements, textbook responses to every situation. "Your people fight like water," one Aetherian commander complained, his skin flushed with frustration. Flowing, changing, unpredictable. It is not our way. That's exactly why it works, Sarah replied, directing another squad to flank an enemy position. They can't predict what they can't understand. And right now, that's our advantage. Tilara watched this exchange with increasing fascination, her color patterns shifting through shades Sarah hadn't seen before. You adapt so quickly, she said during a brief respite. Your species, you don't just accept change, you embrace it. You thrive on it. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. We had to. Earth isn't like Aetheria Prime. We didn't have the luxury of perfect environments or technological harmony. We had to fight for everything. Against nature, against each other, against our own limitations. It made us stubborn, resourceful, and dangerous, Tilara added, but her tone held admiration rather than fear. The princess led Sarah deeper into the palace, past layers of security that responded to her biological signature. They entered a chamber that hummed with power, its walls covered in writings that seemed to move and shift of their own accord. This is a fragment of the archives, Tilara explained. The truth we've hidden for 10,000 years. She gestured, and the writings coalesced into images, star maps, battle records, and something else. Something that made Sarah's blood run cold. They're called the Void Hunters, Tilara continued. We encountered them during our first expansion into space. They don't seek territory or resources. They seek knowledge, experience. They consume civilizations not for their bodies or their worlds, but for their memories, their cultures, their very essence. Sarah studied the images, her tactical mind already analyzing weaknesses, patterns, possibilities. Why reveal yourselves now? Why contact Earth? Tilara's colors shifted to a deep, midnight blue. Because we saw how your people fought. How you overcame every obstacle, adapted to every challenge. We watched as you turned your weaknesses into strengths, your divisions into diversity, your struggles into wisdom. She paused. We realized that isolation wasn't the answer. That perhaps survival required something else, something that humans seem to understand instinctively. And what's that? The courage to change, to evolve, to become more than what we are. Tilara's golden eyes met Sarah's. We need your help, Commander. Not just your weapons or your tactics, but your perspective, your humanity. The chamber shuddered as another explosion rocked the city. Sarah's neural link buzzed with urgent updates. The enemy was changing tactics, adapting to their defenses, learning. They're inside the outer perimeter, Sarah reported. Moving faster now. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it soon. Tilara nodded, her decision made. Then let us show them what our peoples can achieve together, something they cannot consume or corrupt. She pressed her hand to one of the archive walls, and the entire chamber hummed with new energy, something uniquely human combined with Aetherian knowledge. Sarah watched in amazement as the crystalline technology of the palace began to change, responding to some unspoken command. She could feel it through the deck plates, through her neural link, through the very air. 2 civilizations worth of innovation and determination, fusing into something entirely new. Well, Sarah said, checking her weapon, humanity didn't come this far by playing it safe. Let's show these Void Hunters what they're really dealing with. Tilara's skin blazed with colors that Sarah suspected had never been seen before in the long history of her species. Together then, Commander Chen. Together, Sarah confirmed. And Tilara, call me Sarah. If we're about to make history, we might as well be on a first-name basis. The archives chamber had become their command center, its living walls adapting to display tactical data alongside ancient records. Sarah watched as human marines and Aetherian warriors fought side by side through the palace corridors, their different combat styles beginning to mesh into something new and unpredictable. But it was what she saw in the historical records that truly caught her attention. These patterns, she said, gesturing to a series of stellar coordinates. They match old Earth legends, stories about visitors from the stars, about beings who came to test us. She turned to Tilara, who was directing palace defenses through her biological link to the crystal systems. Your people have been watching us for a long time, haven't you? Tilara's skin shifted to a deep indigo, a color Sarah had learned meant revelation. Not watching, guiding, protecting, in our way. We influenced your development. The quantum physics breakthroughs in 2157. The neural interface revolution in 2189. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Those weren't just human innovations, were they? We left breadcrumbs, Tilara admitted. Small hints, subtle nudges. We needed you to develop in certain ways, to be ready when the time came. But the remarkable thing is how you took those hints and transformed them into something entirely unexpected. Humans never simply copy. You innovate, improvise, create. A massive explosion rocked the palace, and new alerts flooded their tactical displays. The Void Hunters had breached the inner defensive ring, their ships using some kind of quantum tunneling technology to bypass the strongest shields. Speaking of innovation, Sarah said, studying the enemy movements, I think I see what they're really doing. These attacks aren't random. Look at the pattern. They're not trying to destroy the archives. They're trying to download them. Each blast is carrying data mining protocols. Tilara's colors swirled with alarm. If they access the full archives, they'll learn everything. About Earth, about our plans, about the weapon we've been developing. What weapon? Before Tilara could answer, a new presence entered their tactical sphere. A holographic figure materialized. Tall, ethereal, wearing the ornate robes of the Aetherian High Council. Your Radiance, it said, addressing Tilara. The Council demands you cease this cooperation with the humans immediately. They are not ready for the truth. Tilara's skin flushed with colors Sarah had never seen before. Anger, defiance, determination. Counselor Vex, your timing is impeccable. As always. Sarah's combat instincts went into overdrive. Something about the counselor's appearance, about the timing. Tilara, check the quantum signature of that transmission. The princess was already moving, her hands dancing through the archive's interfaces, her colors drained to a shocked white. It's not coming from the council chambers. It's coming from... She looked up at Sarah. The Void Hunter fleet. The hologram of Counselor Vex smiled, and the expression was wrong in ways that made Sarah's skin crawl. Clever humans. Always seeing patterns, making connections. It's what made you such perfect test subjects. Test subjects. Sarah's hand moved to her sidearm, even though she knew it would be useless against a hologram. What are you talking about? Did you think it was coincidence that humanity developed so quickly? That you went from primitive chemical rockets to quantum drives in less than 2 centuries? The false counselor's form began to shift, becoming something older, darker. The Aetherians weren't the only ones guiding your evolution. We've all been watching you, shaping you, preparing you. Tilara's voice was tight with controlled fury. The Council, how many of them are really our people? How long have you been infiltrating us? Long enough to ensure that when the time came, both our species would be exactly where we needed them. The creature's form continued to change, its edges becoming fractal, impossible. Humanity's adaptability, combined with Aetherian technology. You're going to help us break through to something new, something greater. Sarah's tactical mind was racing, connecting dots, seeing the bigger picture. The weapon Tilara mentioned. It's not a conventional weapon at all, is it? It's us, humans and Aetherians together. Something about that combination scares you. The hologram flickered, its edges becoming less stable. Scares us? No, Commander Chen. It excites us. Do you know what happens when you combine human adaptability with Aetherian quantum consciousness? What kind of beings you could become? We're not here to destroy you. We're here to harvest that potential, to guide your transcendence. By force. Tilara's colors had stabilized into a steely blue-gray Sarah hadn't seen before. That's not transcendence. That's consumption. New alarms blared through the palace. The Void Hunters had breached the Archive's outer defenses, their ships moving into position around the chamber. Sarah could feel vibrations through the crystal floors as their weapons powered up. "It doesn't have to be this way," the creature said. "It's formed now, a writhing mass of fractals and void. Join us willingly. Let us show you what you could become." Sarah looked at Tilara, saw the same resolve in her alien features that she felt in her own heart. "Humanity didn't come this far by letting others decide our fate," she said. "And from what I've learned about the Aetherians, neither did they." Tilara's hands were already moving through the Archive's interfaces, initiating some kind of protocol that made the crystal walls pulse with new energy. "Sarah, remember what you said about humans never simply copying, about how you always transform things into something new?" Sarah nodded, beginning to understand. "You're thinking what I'm thinking. If they want to see what humans and Aetherians can do together," Tilara said, her colors blazing with fierce determination, "let's show them, on our terms." The chamber hummed with power as two civilizations' worth of knowledge and innovation began to merge, guided by human intuition and Aetherian wisdom. Above them, the Void Hunters' ships moved into their final attack positions, unaware that their carefully laid plans were about to encounter something they had never calculated for: genuine cooperation between equals, freely chosen and strengthened by adversity. The trap was sprung. But who was trapping whom? The Crystal Palace shuddered under the combined assault of 100 Void Hunter ships. In the archive chamber, Sarah and Tilara worked with desperate precision, their movements synchronized after hours of fighting together. The chamber's walls pulsed with increasing energy as they enacted their plan, not just a defense, but a complete rewriting of the rules of engagement. "Neural link established," Sarah reported, feeling the strange sensation of Aetherian quantum systems interfacing with her human neural implants. "It's different than I expected. Like thinking in colors." Tilara's skin rippled with patterns that somehow felt familiar now, resonating through their shared connection. "And for me, it's like feeling in equations, your human consciousness. It's beautifully chaotic." The Void Hunters were bringing their full power to bear, their weapons boring through the palace's outer layers. But they had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that human unpredictability and Aetherian technology couldn't truly merge. They were about to learn otherwise. "They're so focused on accessing the archives," Sarah said, her mind dancing through layers of quantum probability that her human brain shouldn't have been able to comprehend. They never stopped to consider that the archives might access them back. Through their merged consciousness, Sarah could feel Tilara's appreciation of the strategy. The Void Hunters had spent millennia consuming the knowledge and experiences of other species, using it to perfect their own evolution. But they had always remained separate, superior, never truly joining with their victims. They didn't understand the power of genuine synthesis. "Ready for Phase 1, Tilara announced, her colors pulsing in time with the chamber's energy fields. "Sarah, are you sure about this? No human has ever attempted quantum consciousness integration at this scale." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "Humanity specializes in attempting the impossible. Besides, I've got the best possible teacher." They initiated the sequence. The archive chamber's crystalline walls began to sing, not with Aetherian harmonies alone, but with a new melody, one that combined Aetherian quantum resonance with the inherent rhythms of human brainwaves. Through their shared neural link, Sarah could feel the power building, could sense the Void Hunters' sudden confusion as their sensors detected something they had never encountered before. "They're realizing something's wrong," Sarah reported, watching through both physical and quantum senses as the enemy fleet's formation began to waver. "But they can't break off. Their own protocols won't let them abandon an information-gathering opportunity. Then let's give them information they won't expect." Tilara's hands danced through the quantum interfaces, now augmented by Sarah's human instinct for finding patterns in chaos. Activating Phase 2. The Archive's defenses turned inside out. Instead of trying to keep the Void Hunters from accessing the data, they opened everything, but filtered through the lens of their combined consciousness. Every bit of information the enemy tried to download came wrapped in layers of human creativity and Etherian quantum mechanics, creating feedback loops that their systems couldn't process. Through their neural link, Sarah felt Talera's fierce joy at the success of their gambit. The Void Hunters had expected to find two separate species, weakened by their differences. Instead, they found something new, something that turned their own appetite for information against them. But the enemy was far from defeated. The Void Hunter ships began to adapt, their fractal forms shifting into new configurations. They had consumed the knowledge of thousands of civilizations. They would not be so easily overcome. They're changing tactics, Sarah warned, feeling the shift through their quantum awareness. Trying to overwhelm us with raw power instead of finesse. Classic human strategy, actually. Then let's show them another human trait, Talera replied, her colors blazing with determination. The ability to turn apparent defeat into unexpected victory. They had prepared for this. As the Void Hunters brought their full power to bear, Sarah and Talera activated the final phase of their plan. The entire crystal palace began to resonate, every quantum-enabled crystal becoming part of a vast network. But unlike the Void Hunters' forced consumption of other species' knowledge, this network was built on willing cooperation, on the freely given combination of human and Etherian minds. The effect was devastating. The Void Hunters' weapons, designed to penetrate barriers and extract information, instead found themselves drawing in the combined consciousness of hundreds of humans and Etherians. Every shot they fired became a connection. Every attempt to breach the palace's defenses opened their own systems to the flood of unified thought. Sarah felt the strain of maintaining the neural link, felt the pressure of processing quantum data through her human brain. But she also felt Talera's steady presence, guiding her through the complexity, while her own human adaptability helped the princess navigate the chaos of hundreds of minds working in concert. "It's working," Talera announced, her colors shifting through patterns of triumph and concern. "Their ships are losing coherence. But Sarah, your neural patterns are becoming unstable. We need to disconnect therefore." "Not yet," Sarah gritted out, pushing through the pain. "They're still trying to adapt. We need to show them something they can never copy. What happens when two species choose to face death together rather than submit?" The Void Hunter ships were beginning to break apart, their fractal forms unable to maintain integrity under the assault of unified consciousness. But their final attack was devastating. A blast of pure quantum energy that shattered the palace's outer shells and sent feedback screaming through the neural network. Sarah felt herself falling, her mind burning with overload. The last thing she saw was Talera reaching for her, the princess's colors blazing with emotions that transcended any single species' capacity for feeling. Then darkness took her, and she knew no more. But in that darkness, something remained. A connection forged in crisis, a bridge between two ways of thinking that should never have been compatible. And through that connection flowed not just information or power, but understanding. The very thing the Void Hunters had sought for millennia, yet never truly grasped. The true power of unity wasn't in consuming other species' strengths. It was in learning to grow together, to become more than the sum of your parts. And now, as Sarah drifted in the quantum void, she felt that lesson reshaping reality itself. Sarah Chen woke to the sound of crystal singing. Her mind felt different, expanded somehow, as if she could think in more dimensions than before. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a healing chamber, its walls pulsing with gentle light. Talera sat beside her, the princess's colors flowing in patterns that somehow made perfect sense now. "How long?" Sarah asked, her voice rough from disuse. 3 Earth days, Talera replied. "The neural merger, it changed things. Changed us. The doctors say your brain has developed new quantum-sensitive structures. And She held up her hand, showing skin that now shifted with distinctly human emotional patterns. "I find myself experiencing emotions in ways my people never have before." Sarah sat up carefully, testing her new awareness. The quantum consciousness that had nearly overwhelmed her during the battle now felt natural, integrated. She could sense the pulse of the crystal palace around them, feel the thoughts of both humans and Etherians flowing through its network. But most clearly, she could feel her connection to Tilara, a bridge between two ways of being that had become something entirely new. "The Void Hunters?" she asked, though she could already sense the answer through her enhanced perception. "Defeated, but not destroyed. Your human concept of mercy, combined with our technology. We found a way to help them understand what they'd been seeking all along." Tilara's colors shifted to a deep, thoughtful blue. They'd spent millennia consuming other species' knowledge, trying to force evolution, never realizing that true advancement comes from willing cooperation, from genuine connection. Through their shared awareness, Sarah could see what had happened after she lost consciousness. The combined human-Etherian consciousness had overwhelmed the Void Hunters' systems, but instead of destroying them, it had shown them a new way. Their fractal ships now orbited Aetheria Prime, not as conquerors, but as students, learning what willing partnership between species could achieve. "The High Council is in chaos," Tilara continued. "Many of the infiltrators have been exposed, but more importantly, our people are changing. Your human influence has sparked something in us, a desire to break free from our rigid patterns, to embrace chaos as a source of growth rather than something to fear." Sarah stood, walking to the chamber's window. The city below was transforming, its crystalline architecture now incorporating distinctly human elements, curves and angles that spoke of adaptation rather than perfection. She could see human marines and Etherian warriors training together, each learning from the other's strengths. "And Earth?" she asked. "How are they handling all this?" "Better than anyone expected. Your people have a remarkable capacity for accepting the impossible, for embracing change." Tilara moved to stand beside her, their quantum connection humming with shared purpose. "The Earth Defense Fleet is already working with our scientists to develop new technologies that combine human intuition with Aetherian precision. And this is just the beginning." Sarah turned to face the princess, seeing her not just with human eyes, but with her new quantum senses. Tilara's consciousness was a symphony of color and thought, emotion and logic intertwined in ways that defied traditional understanding. And through their connection, Sarah knew that Tilara saw her the same way, a beautiful chaos of human determination and newfound quantum awareness. "You know there's no going back," Sarah said softly. "What we've started here, this merging of our species, it's going to change everything. That's what your people do best, isn't it? Change things, push boundaries, transform the impossible into the inevitable." Tilara's colors shifted to a warm, deep gold. "My people spent 10,000 years hiding from change, thinking isolation would preserve us. We never realized that preservation without growth is just another form of death." Through the quantum network, they could feel the ripples of their success spreading. Other species were reaching out, drawn by the news of what humans and Etherians had achieved together. The Void Hunters' defeat had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, not because of the victory itself, but because of how it had been achieved. The power of willing cooperation between different species had proven stronger than any forced consumption of knowledge. "The real work starts now," Sarah said, feeling the weight of future challenges through their shared awareness. "Helping our peoples understand each other, learning to work together without losing what makes us unique. And that's exactly why it will succeed." Tilara's hand found hers, their touch creating cascades of quantum resonance. "Because we're not trying to make humans more Aetherian, or Etherians more human. We're creating something new together, something that could only exist through free choice and mutual respect." Sarah looked out at the 3 setting suns of Aetheria Prime, their light refracting through the crystal spires in ways that her enhanced perception now found endlessly fascinating. The universe had turned out to be more complex, more wonderful, and more full of possibilities than either of their species had imagined. Humanity's greatest strength had never been in its technology, its adaptability, or even its determination. Though all these things were remarkable, its greatest strength was in showing others that difference didn't have to mean division, that change didn't have to mean loss, and that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't conquest or consumption, but willing cooperation between equals. As the last sun set, its light caught the crystal walls in a way that made them sing with both Aetherian harmony and human rhythm. The songs spread through the quantum network, touching every mind in the city, a melody of two species that had chosen to face the future not as separate entities, but as partners in an endless dance of growth and discovery. The bridge between stars had been built, and across it flowed not just knowledge or power, but understanding, the one thing the Void Hunters had spent millennia seeking, yet never found. In the end, it wasn't something that could be taken or consumed. It had to be given freely, grown together, shaped by the very differences that made each species unique. Sarah squeezed Tilara's hand, feeling the quantum resonance of their combined consciousness ripple out into the galaxy. They had much to do, many challenges to face, and endless possibilities to explore. But they would face it all together, not as human and Aetherian, but as pioneers of a new way of being. The future, like the best of human nature, was adaptable, unpredictable, and full of promise.